Welcome back to AgriTalk, the National Biodiesel Conference going on in Orlando, Florida. I tell you what, I'm learning a lot about uses for biodiesel. And as I just learned about the mining industry and the mining industry in Kansas, a story that I've been watching closely and has kind of been amazing to me, and that is the BioHeat story. And because I just didn't think much about how many people still used oil for their home heating. I remember we used that and had an oil furnace as a kid growing up, and I didn't know that many people still used the oil for their heat. But I understand it's a pretty commonplace, especially in the eastern part of the country. Well, that has opened up an opportunity for biodiesel and BioHeat. We're going to talk about that with Paul Nazarro, President of Advanced Fuel Solutions out of Massachusetts and the Petroleum Liaison for the National Biodiesel Board. Paul, thank you for joining us. This is part of the petroleum outreach that's going on with the National Biodiesel Board.
Yes, it is. And I think it's good to start right on that topic right there so people understand what the National Biodiesel Board has done for the past 15 years to forge alliances with petroleum groups across the nation, that being refiners and pipelines, the terminals that store the fuel, and finally the distributors that take it to the end user. So our programs are educational in nature. We basically go out with the mythbusters. You know, there's a lot of petroleum people who just say this stuff can't work. Biodiesel in general, it's going to freeze up, it's unstable fuel, etc. I'm just giving you a snapshot, but those are the baseline concerns that they have about this, and believe it or not, unknown fuel to them. So we go basically like door to door. We make appointments and we visit these national associations, the regional groups. We educate, and educate. And that vaulted us into a very specific market, the one I know you'd like to talk about, and so would I, because it was a brain, I call it a brainstorm of some 15 years ago. I recognized that the heating oil industry here where I reside on the northeast corridor. By the way, the northeast corridor, it's the mid-Atlantic. There's 23 states that make up the oil heat terrain. Some 6.5 billion gallons of heating oil are consumed in those states each and every year. Factors that affect that number would be the weather, general market contraction, that being, you know, people that used to use oil heat vaulting into natural gas specifically. And then market consolidation. One thing people don't understand about oil heat, it's not the Exxon Mobils or the Conocos or the Marathons. It's Bob's Oil, it's Paul's Oil, it's Larry's Oil. They're family businesses just like Family Farm, and I think that's what intrigued many of the state soybean associations that stepped up, saw a lot of value in supporting the BioHeat campaign.
And when we talk BioHeat, when we're talking about heating homes, what blend are we talking about? 2%, is that right?
The definition of BioHeat, as stated, is a minimum of 2% to a maximum of 5% B100 that meets its specification being 6751. That's the specification for biodiesel. Then it gets blended into home heating oil. That's the legal definition of it. And the reason we're at 2 and 5% is when we started this program several years ago, I call it the Baby Steps campaign. It was a natural evolution to start small and grow. The supply and demand, technical, legacy issues. There's like the average age of a heating oil system out in that landscape I talked about a second ago is 25 years old. So when you're putting a new fuel of any type into a fuel, or replacing and blending down, you have to make sure that you're not going to provide any no-harm situation with the existing equipment. So right now, the random blend out there is probably up to 5%.
So for a homeowner, what are the advantages for them to use BioHeat?
Yeah, well, there's three. I call it my three-legged stool. It's operational peace of mind, environmental stewardship, and energy independence. It's the pathway towards getting to higher blends, but you get those benefits out of the box, just incremental.
Do you now have consumers asking for, wanting to use BioHeat?
Absolutely, and again, because of the investments made by a lot of state associations, we just came off one of the largest campaigns, the New York City campaign, and that there we were out in buses, we're in the subways. Radio campaign with CBS. We did a lot of material development there, and at the end of the day, and I know John Maniscalco from New York is going to talk shortly with you about this. At the end of the day, we had an 89% increase in consumer awareness because of this campaign. So we're now convinced that if we get into these markets and start banging out the communication in that sense, we'll be really drawing more people asking for it.
I think John's here. Let's bring him in now. John, welcome. John Let me get your name right.
Maniscalco.
Maniscalco. I want to make sure I pronounced it right. And CEO of the New York Oil Heating Association. John, thank you for joining us. Let's follow up on what Paul was just telling us and what you see as the potential here for BioHeat in the New York area.
Well, for me, we have the green light, so to speak. I mean, we have a lot of positive stuff going on right now in New York City on BioHeat. We have that BioHeat mandate that starts in October. That's a 2%, which is probably means they're going to require about 14, 15 million gallons as a start. And then, obviously, my goal is to ramp it up as quickly as I can to B5 and eventually B12.
Now, to make this for a homeowner, do they have to do anything different with their furnace? Do they have to get a different furnace, or can they just make that change immediately?
The change is seamless. They would know the difference, whether it's BioHeat or a straight 100% petroleum product. So that's a good thing.
Now, would it... we often talk about, we look at engine performance a lot of times using biodiesel. What about for a furnace? And does it extend the life of a furnace, or does it burn more efficiently, or what are the advantages?
To a degree, it would extend it because it reduces the fouling, so to speak, or the coking, or the sooting, so to speak, so because of the cleansing action. So that's always a good thing, because that gives you less maintenance and a longer life for the equipment.
So what do you see as the potential? It sounds like there's a lot of growth potential here.
Oh, there's amazing growth. I mean, if I go to B5, which that's kind of like where the manufacturers accept the product right now, I would need about 30 to 35 million gallons of, and then once I get to the B12, and the reason I say B12 is because that gives me parity with the natural gas industry for air emissions, and at that time it'll be in the 80 to 90 million gallon range.
Paul, what's still the biggest obstacles, hurdles to overcome to realize this potential?
Linking all the petroleum supply chain partners together. You have terminal people. They have to make investments to store more fuels, blend more fuels. Then you have to get the fuel distributor to become educated so that he or she could take this message to the consumer. So more consumer education and more distributor petroleum education.
Is the petroleum industry becoming more receptive to this?
In the BioHeat community, yeah, absolutely. This is an industry that didn't have a change since coal. It went from coal to oil, now it's going to BioHeat. So this is truly the evolution of oil heat.
So it's a whole new mindset. The education that Paul's talked about, John, it's critical to get people to look at heating a different way.
Oh, definitely. We need to get cleaner and greener, and that's part of the education process, so to speak. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is it's something really positive we can say about our industry, because right now, between the economics against our competitors and all, we don't have a lot good to say, and this is definitely a good thing.
Well, what about price and supply for getting the product to the East Coast?
It's been seamless there, too. I mean, a lot of people saw the volatility in price when we experience volatility in petroleum all the time. But because of the RFS2 and the way it's being bought and sold right now and blended, the valuation of RINs and things of that nature, right now it's price parity. But, there's no prediction that it couldn't go one way or the other.
So it's an exciting story, and one that we're going to watch closely. Paul, John, thank you both very much. We appreciate it. Paul Nazarro, President of the Advanced Fuel Solutions and the Petroleum Liaison for the National Biodiesel Board, and also John Maniscalco, CEO of New York Oil Heating Association, talking about BioHeat, a growing market for biodiesel. Much more tomorrow from the National Biodiesel Conference here in Orlando. Hope you'll join us right here on AgriTalk.